Oh, goodness. Good timing. Let's get all those stretches, sneezes, and yawns out.
It's terrible timing. Oh, goodness. Nathan, take us in.
Okay. Welcome back to the Janchi Show. I am your... What, is that too hot?
Yeah.
It is?
Way too hot.
Every time I feel like you're like, okay, I'm talking normally, here's my audio, and then when we say Nathan Roland, you lean in and also start talking louder.
I am
like,
still
sir.
4 inches away from my mic, sir.
Basically screaming.
I have not moved.
Basically screaming.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. I am one of your hosts, Nathan Nowak, along with Patrick Armstrong and KJ Rolke. Hi, guys.
Hello.
What's up?
Hello.
How you guys doing this fine recording night?
Good. Today was a real Monday. I had Friday off in observance of Veterans Day, and the 3-day weekend really did me in. Sunday night, I was like, wait a minute, how do I do my job? What am I supposed to do? So, yeah. But it's been good. Sarah is fun employed in between jobs. Not really fun employed, just in between jobs, and so she's been excited and chill and all that stuff. And yeah, it's been real chill, real good in the Rolke home.
I was
How
like,
about y'all?
what is fun employed? But I get it now.
Fun.
There you go.
I was like, I don't get it, but
It feels
I'm
like
I'm
deeply
getting it now.
millennial. Like, I feel like fun employed was a term I heard a lot in like the late teens. You know, so it's like a 5-year-old thing at this point.
Makes sense.
Hey, it's new to me.
You were in your late teens 5 years ago? Oh, in the late
In
teens
the late
of
teens.
2000s.
Yes,
Okay.
the
I'm
late
a little
2010s.
slow on the get up today.
It's
My bad.
fine. Spoiler alert: we're drinking coffee later, so maybe that will help for after the recording
Yeah.
when you need to
Maybe
chill out again.
Maybe we should do it now. Maybe we should do it during the show.
No, mine's still cooling down. Actually, I don't even like cold coffee, so this is
Oh.
going to be experience for all of us.
Okay. Well, I know you like black coffee, so that's,
It is an Americano.
I made
spoiler
sure
alert.
it was not. Yeah, I made sure it wasn't cream based. So, but what about you, Patrick? How's the old Indiana
Stuff's happening.
stuff is happening?
Today was a day.
Today
saw
was a
you-
day.
We saw you had a baby shower, so that's cool. But
Yeah, it was a few weeks ago.
And then, did you travel?
Nope.
Nope, no traveling. just being.
I go to Boston in 2 weeks from when this episode comes out for a day, for an event. And then that's it. I guess we're going to go to New York for a little like baby moon situation
Baby moon.
mid-December. So
Oh, that should be fun. Nothing
think
says
it'll be
baby
fun.
moon than walking the streets of New York. So
is that what that says?
no, I just
I have heard that's the ideal time to go, though. I'm like, hey, my wife is incredibly pregnant, and walking's probably going to be uncomfortable. Where can we go that has a lot of walking?
Yeah, right.
It's either New York or San Francisco. You know, like walking plus hills.
I'm just going to put her in a stroller and then push her around.
It's fine. It's totally normal.
We're going like midweek, so hopefully it's not like super busy, but we're just going to do a bunch of tourist stuff and just essentially just get one more in before we travel no more. So
nice.
forever.
Forever.
Well, before we get too far, Patrick, what is Janchi? Why are
Just
we
forget
doing a
my
Janchi show? Patrick.
Just forget what my name was.
No, I didn't know if I was going to throw it to you or KJ. So
You were just getting right up on that mic, just getting
I still.
real peaky in my ears.
Light distortion.
I'm back
Janchi
here now.
means is a Korean word for feast or banquet, and we call ourselves a Janchi show because on this show we celebrate our shared identities as Korean adoptees, and we talk about the adoptee experience and more recently the broader Asian adoptee experience. And we do some feasting at the end of each episode with a snack purchased by Nathan and sent to all of us. And I think that's about it. That's generally the gist of the show. Sometimes we have people on, sometimes we don't have people on. But for the most part, we just sit around and talk and share our stories. It's a real great time.
And I'm still really in awe that we've passed 150 episodes. This is
151.
Yeah, good job, guys.
We did it.
We did it.
Virtual high five. Yeah. So.
Just
I was late
everybody
to that
gets
one, too.
palmed in the face. Just here you go. It's incredibly violent.
Speaking of doing a lot of podcasting, Nathan, you recently were on a panel with Adoption Mosaic talking about being the host of an adoptee podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, how'd it go?
Yeah, share a little bit about that experience.
Among other very talented adoptee voices out there. Yeah, it was a good time. I was honored to be on there and just chatting about my experience and just my journey over the last 3 years of being on this podcast and the other things that I have branched off to do. That kind of the exploration of into adoption and my history has led me to do other things and stuff. So it was nice, and you can actually purchase it, but for anyone who was there, thank you. And I did get a couple people message me afterwards, so that was nice. I did mention you guys, but I didn't mention you until like more than halfway through.
That was my next question: was how much did you talk about us?
I almost forgot.
How much did you talk about Conversation Piece?
Yeah, how much did you talk about my other podcast?
Exactly.
And everything that I've got going on.
There was no space for that one, but but no,
Wow.
it was great. We had a lot of people, a lot of participation, a lot of questions, and and I learned a few things that I'm still kind of unpacking and trying to think about in realms of adjacent experiences to ours, because there was a lot of domestic adoptees as well that I think, and mothers and parents and also first moms, which was a term that I had actually not heard of, as a mother who has put up their child for adoption. So that was I was learning, listening, kind of it was great to be involved in that community. So yeah.
Right on. I really like what Adoption Mosaic is up to. Did you say that was available for purchase? I assume on their website, adoptionmosaic.org.
Yeah. So if you couldn't make the panel, you can purchase it afterwards. I'm not sure if they said that it was going to be on just their website or on YouTube, but I know you can purchase it for listening afterwards. So
right on. Yeah. So go support Nathan, support us spiritually, support Adoption Mosaic by checking that out. It's really funny to me that you're like, yeah, it was great to be a speaker where I just mostly got to sit and listen. And
I had my questions.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the questions.
It was great to be able to just listen and not talk so much.
It was. I mean, I had to, among 3 other adoptee podcasters, I had to have my 5 minutes per question. One of the questions I thought was really interesting, which was I talked about it from my experience, but also kind of the experience of us, all of us in general of the podcast. But it was, how is the evolution of our podcasts gone from the first episodes of where we were to the more recent ones? And
was your answer, we didn't know what we were doing, and now we still don't know what we're doing?
Now we're more comfortable not knowing
we know
what
a little
we're doing.
bit less. Exactly.
Now we're okay with that.
No, I said, yeah, now I think we have more language, which we've talked about in episodes before, which I think is true. We may still be, going through it with at the seat of our pants at times, but I think the language that we have and the knowledge of what we want to talk about is better, and it's more. Astrid also said that she really appreciated the way that the nuance of our conversations were kind of more in depth and stuff as well. So I think that is definitely true as well. We're not just kind of sitting there, listening. We actually, I think, are engaging more. So
unless we just sit there and listen.
Unless we
listen, depending on the guest, I guess.
Yeah,
unless we don't
true.
engage.
That's
true.
That's funny.
Great podcasting content is just non-engagement from the host.
It's like, hello, welcome to my show. I'm going to listen now. Um,
Oh my god.
Nathan, you mentioned that there were domestic adoptees on the panel, and that reminded me. I went to lunch recently with my parents, and I feel like now I don't know, like every so often, maybe every 8th conversation, my mom will drop in like, "Oh yeah, your aunt or someone is adopted," or like my, whatever. I'm like, "What? Why is there so much adoption in my family?" Like, but a lot of it is domestic.
Yeah.
And it was just like, man, I'm really interested. Like hearing, we were talking about, my dad brought up when I went back to Korea and finding out that I had a sibling in my paperwork, and how I reacted to that. Do I think about that now? And he was like, do you think about that now? And then my mom was like, yeah, so with your aunts who are adopted, this was what their relationship to birth search was like, et cetera, et cetera. And it just made me really, it was just so interesting to me to get into that conversation from a familial point of view, just because it is my family, but also I think from a domestic adoption point of view. And it's something that I am not yet ready to engage in, but I'm like getting closer. I'm like, all right, I think my brain can handle this level up, But that kind of brings us to what I wanted to talk about, or open the conversation floor for today, which is what are, in the last 150 episodes we've been doing the show, obviously our identities have been pretty drastically altered, maybe not drastically, but significantly altered in how we think about ourselves, how we think about the world, and those kinds of things, especially through the lenses of being adoptees and then being Asians and men, and all the things, all the intersections. But while we focus most of our time on the show talking about that adoptee identity and that Asian identity, are there parts of your life, like for me, especially on this podcast, I think Christianity has been really wrapped up in this kind of broad identity intersection? What are things that you have found yourself re-engaging with or engaging with differently, not necessarily related to being an adoptee, but certainly because of this new understanding that you have of yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been, I was just talking to Emily about this today, but it's been the community, I guess, that I try to build for myself. And that doesn't necessarily just mean like other adoptees, but just like the people who I want to seek out and like become friends with and build friendships and relationships with, and I said this, but I was like, I am I would be totally okay if like I didn't have make any new white friends. Like,
Yes, that's
let
what
me let me
that's what I
like
say all the time. Is like, no
yeah.
more white friends.
Like I like
I've
the
met my
ones that I
quota.
got, but I'm like, that's all for a long time. It's all I knew. And so it's like, I'm ready now, or on this journey over the last 3 years. Like that's been, I think, one big shift is like trying to be intentional about who I'm surrounding myself with, who I want to spend time with outside of whatever it is. And honestly, something I could do better at is like just do friend stuff, like go out to dinner
Just
and just
generally?
like do it, and then not like it be tied to work or like the podcast or something like
Right.
that. You know what I mean? Something I don't think I was even really thinking about until we were talking about it today. So shout out my wife for helping me
What?
think about stuff a little bit differently and gain new perspective on myself. But I feel like it's really community that it's wrapped up in. It's just like how I engage with community and thinking about, and especially as I approach parenthood, like what kind of community do I want my kid to be around and grow up in and have access to. So yeah, I think that's what I've been thinking about a lot recently too.
I was also going to say communities, but I will not
Nope, use
piggyback
a
on top
different
of
one.
that.
Pick something different. No, I'm
Is
just
it
kidding.
community in the same way though?
It's a little different. I mean, my community is I mean, I had a kind of a diverse community of friends in California, and a lot of them were work based. So there was photography or DVD production, my old company, and things like that. So I definitely had some diverse, more Asian friends specifically in California. So I had that portion of it, but I didn't have a whole lot of adoptee friends. It wasn't until the podcast that I think that adoptee community really kind of started to integrate with with myself and all of the time that I have that I wanted to explore, the groups that I wanted to hang out with, and of course, seeing you guys more often, the con, committees and things like that. So that part of the committee or the community for me was yeah, it was more of the adoptee community specific. Um, and then of course being just more aware. So that is what I would say is my second part, is being aware of the adoptee community, or just being aware of the, like you were saying, domestic adoptees, being aware of that, that there are organizations, films. I mean, this is actually what Khan's theme is for next year, is visibility. And so that's the part of that I never really was looking at or looking for, and then all of a sudden I see it more often now. And I don't know if that's because it's just like my eyes are open to it, and I'm more accepting of it than I was, 8 years ago. Um, but I definitely appreciate that, because I find so much, um, I guess, so much out of it for myself. It's like someone said last year at Con that, Con was like the community that they never knew they needed. And that's kind of what I feel about like this adoption, or the adoptee community that I've been integrated with now, is that it's something that I didn't know I needed, because I had an Asian friend base already. But it's a different type of community for me now. Um, so that's why I really appreciate that part of it.
Yeah. I
You guys are like,
I thought
is that
KJ
too
was
much?
going to jump in, and then the pause just continued, so I was just going to wait.
well, I
I didn't really have anything to respond with.
decided to mess with my microphone settings like an idiot, and then you were done talking, and I was like, I've made a bad choice, bad
That was
timing.
like, that was like when somebody asks a question and then there's a dropout on the phone, and you're like, did I say something wrong?
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I mean, I definitely, I think in similar veins to both of you, find myself. I mean, I've said for a long time, like, no more white friends. I've hit my quota, but I think I have been more aware of different communities. And Nathan, to your point, just the idea of like what it means to see, to notice, and to make feel seen and heard different marginalized communities that I am a part of, and it was interesting. Like, my sister-in-law had like a celebration of home ownership. It was like a housewarming party, but like a year too late, basically. So celebration of home ownership, and had some friends over, and so we were over there, and we got to meet, or I got to meet one of her very old friends who is Pakistani and is married to a white guy. And so we got to talking about what it looks like to blend cultures, and to, like, she wants to raise her kid as a Muslim, in her particular tradition and experience of that's important to her. Meanwhile, her partner is like still working out how he feels around religion, but has come out of the Christian tradition and is like, yeah, that's not for me. So, like, I think wrestling then with those kinds of things. And so she's like, well, how do I deal with, like, I want my kid to observe like the high holidays and like maybe experience daily prayers, but also be respectful of my husband who has different feelings of those kinds of things, and it just, for me, like, she was like, oh, have you talked to Sarah about that? And it's like, I mean, sort of, but I think we've talked a lot around race. But we're also trying to figure out how to articulate our thoughts around religion and those things. And yeah, so I think in terms of broadly exploring things outside of adoption, but related to this journey that we've been on, I think the big thing for me is, am I putting myself in positions to be around a more diverse community? Am I putting myself in doing things in a way that exposes me to new people, gives me the opportunity to make new friends? Because I think it's so easy. I mean, Sarah and I are deeply homebodies. Like, there's nothing we love more than just watching a show on our couch and eating dinner on our couch and whatever. But when we meet new people and we think about what we want to do, like, is it like, oh yeah, this is for lack of a better term, this is a white people thing. So realistically, I'm just going to meet more white people here. or like partners of white people, or is there something that we can do that exposes us to a different community, a different crowd, those kinds of things, so that we can potentially meet new people. I don't know, not that we like go anywhere to meet people. We mostly just go to like the grocery store, but you know what I mean. Just thinking about like what types of experiences are we picking out, and how does that change how we see the world and who we choose to interact with.
Are you meeting new people at the grocery store?
No, I don't go to the grocery store. I mostly do grocery pickup. So,
Oh, okay.
So he meets the guy that hands
That
him the
makes sense.
bag.
yeah,
Like, hey,
like,
thanks for the groceries.
yeah.
How you
Well,
doing?
they just say
Want to be friends?
in the trunk, okay? I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's it.
That's funny.
I do have to
oh.
say that I appreciate the community out here. That I know. I haven't said specifically that I don't want any more white friends, but I get where you guys are coming in from that comment.
You don't
I'm
have
happy.
to say it if you don't feel that way. It's okay.
I don't
just say it, even if
necessarily
you-
feel that way. No, it's
There's
fine.
no pressure on you.
Yeah.
We're not anti-white people, okay? We're
I know
just saying,
exactly. That's what I understand. That's what I'm just clarifying that's not what you're saying. I know.
Yeah.
I've been really happy to meet some other people. Like I said, the community, they are white, but they are also in relationships with either adoptees or they're, helping out within the AAPI space. And I really appreciate that because they're allies at that point. The way that they interact with me and ask questions, I just think is great, and I love that part of those types of people when I meet them because it's just refreshing to know that I'm not worried that this guy's going to be racist or something like that. For some reason, it's like I have felt that way sometimes when I meet, I don't want to stereotype, but when I meet certain people with a look or
certain
maybe,
people with a look,
maybe
certain people who drive a certain
car
kind of car
they drive, exactly,
certain
exactly,
flags in said cars,
exactly.
certain exhaust in said cars.
So, and I have had a couple recent, aggressive interactions from people in cars, and I don't know if it's because they were, looking at my car and just wanting to like intimidate me. Because I know it's a dumb
Do you
thing to say,
drive
but
an intimidatable car?
no, but
You
there's a
rolling
lot
up
of
in like a
people
white
out
minivan?
there.
Are you racing folks on the
No,
streets of Denver?
I'm not
Are you-
racing.
Do you live
I
your
am
life 1/4 mile at a time?
And no, I don't have any bumper stickers flipping people off or things like that. No, there is a culture of people who dislike Teslas.
Oh, yeah.
There is a
I get
group
that.
of people who dislike that, and they dislike either Elon Musk or they dislike the idea of being environmentally friendly, I guess. I don't know. But I've had people try to run me off the road, and I don't know if it's because I'm Asian, because I'm driving a Tesla, or because I did something that I was unaware and I just pissed them off. And so I don't, but it really annoys me when that happens because so there's again the situation. I'm just driving and this guy started swerving at me like he was trying to hit me. And so I kind of pulled up next to him and just kind of gave him like what's going on. And he showed me the finger gun thing. And he goes like that, pretending to shoot at me with his fingers.
Yikes.
Damn.
Yes. Okay. Backing off, moving over. I don't want anything to do with that. But why is he doing that? Does he see because I was Asian? Did he see because I'm driving a Tesla?
How tinted are your windows?
Halfway. They're not super
So he
tinted.
can
but
see
they're-
into your
he can
car
see
from
me.
his car.
Maybe you should up that tinting though.
So I don't know. I just dislike those types of interactions, and I worry about that. So those are the type of people that I was saying I do not want to interact with anymore. But
Don't blame you.
yeah,
Yeah, the bad communities.
I don't
like we
want to
talked about
interact
last
with
week.
people who try to run me off the road for any reason.
Yeah. I don't like to interact with people who threaten to murder me.
Yeah.
I find that less than desirable company.
That's true.
It's
I agree.
ridiculous. So.
I
I worry
agree.
more and more about those types of situations, going into other things of awareness about just not just being adoptee, but just awareness of being Asian American is that they're the whole AAPI hate and all that stuff that happened over the last 3 years made me more worried about my family and the types of things that they may encounter as they grow older. So that's definitely something that I've always considered. So parenting as an adoptee is definitely a whole another topic of things to think about and prepare for.
Yeah, I think it's interesting the original question, because at the end of the day, all of it really does tie back to an identity piece of it. Like, it's almost like
Absolutely.
it can't be removed. Even when I was trying to think of things like, what am I doing that's outside of, or that has little or less to do with identity? I'm like, I don't think that there's literally anything. Like, I think it all of it is like, even the type of work that I want to like involve myself in or seek out, um, is just like, oh, I think I'm doing that because, or I know that I'm doing that now because I have a firm grasp of my identity in a way that I never did. You
Hmm.
know, like when I was growing up or when I was in the workforce before, and yeah, the way I move out in the world, just like when I'm driving or when I'm walking, like I'm like consciously thinking of it in a way that I never did prior to 2020, you know, prior
Hmm.
to coming to consciousness and starting the show and doing all these things. And even this community aspect of it, like, is rooted in identity, because I wouldn't be seeking out this type of community or even have that thought of no new white friends, if I weren't like going through this evolutionary process with my own identity. And so I mean, it's just interesting. I think it all just, for me at least, it all just kind of falls back into that, and thinking about even the different things, because I'm not super religious, so I haven't been for, 10, 15 years now. And so like that's not something that I re-engage with. But even at that level, like, I don't know, for you, KJ, is it like because of an identity journey that you find yourself reapproaching it in a different way? Or is it, can it be divorced or removed from identity now, despite the fact that you've been on this journey of identity, I guess? I don't know if that's the
Well,
right way to ask the question, but
I mean, you're asking specifically around like the adoptee identity journey versus like the religious
yeah, yeah,
identity
yeah. Just
journey,
how
right?
like are they, can they be like separately, like separate timelines, essentially separate things that you, tracks that you follow, or are they intertwined in a way that can't really be separated?
I think
The multiverse is infinite.
they they're parallel journeys, and there's a lot of like bridging moments or bridging topics.
Mm,
Like I think the church's response to COVID and like public health safety, the churches, like specifically like the church where I was in, like I would hear people like leaders say, oh yeah, we want people to be safe, and also, like we're keeping up with all the latest news and what's like going to keep people the most safe, the most healthy, and also we're going to continue to hold services, which definitely flies in the face of safety and health, because like you're having people gathered together in an enclosed space singing, which is a COVID super spreader, like, all of these things, and you're giving them a poorer experience because like there's a lot about church, whether it's communion, whether it's like greetings, whether, whatever, shared hymnals, that like is very communal and is really great at spreading germs. So I was like, so I hear you say that you care about health and safety and also doing things that are the antithesis of that, like you're not walking the talk. And then similarly, be like, oh yeah, like even if you say like I believe all lives matter because that's what we're called to do, to see all lives as equal as Christians, whatever. And I'm like, that may be true, but then also like your first response to someone who comes in like a what's the term, like a mentally unstable space, or someone who just looks, for lack of a better term, kind of grimy, who walks into our church. I understand that you may fear for your life, but is it not our calling to lay down our life for other people? Is it not our calling to like take care of those in need? Is it not our calling to do all this we can? And yet your first response is to like, oh, well, we need to improve, like we need to start a volunteer safety squad. We need to make sure that we have a police presence. We need to make sure all of these things. And I realized like at the time, Springfield is not super religious, but it's not super friendly to brown people and to black people to be like, hi, welcome in. We have a police officer. I'm like, I don't really care to be here, And that's like, so that's a whole thing that's just like optically was not great. But obviously that was happening along with, the broader race conversations that were happening in 2020. There is, and so I think that there was like a lot of that. And so there is, I think, a somewhat divorceable, um, pathway between my religious identity and my adoptee identity, but I felt it so much strongly because of who I was becoming, um, versus who I was and where I saw the church going. And what that means for like, well, how the church would see me if they just met me versus I had the benefit of some history with them. So like, I'm cool, quote unquote, you know?
Sure. Let me ask you this. Do you think you would have went on that same journey had you not been doing like any of the show stuff? Like, I feel like you were like race conversations were already like really picked up at that time anyways, as when we started the show. Do you feel like for yourself, you were already in that perspective kind of mindset shift at that time? Or do you feel like it got accelerated when we started the show and having more of these types of conversations? Or do you feel like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I was just hearing you
question.
talk about it. It was just like
question.
thinking
Yeah.
about
What was the catalyst?
like it feels like you would have been in that shift anyways, just based on what you just said. But
all things being the same, besides maybe the podcast, yeah, I think I would have still been on that journey. But I think it was like I feel like I had specific falling out with a church that was very separate to my understanding who I was as Asian American.
Sure.
But they were very close because of like when the Atlanta shootings happened, that was really difficult. When George Floyd and everything after that happened, that was really difficult. But those to me are two very distinct moments in my experience of who I was becoming, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that like one or the other could have happened or not happened, and I think that might have shifted some things. But like I was saying to this couple that I met the other night, like the church was always on this trajectory. Like essentially it started in the 1940s with the rebranding of Christians as evangelicals, because like evangelicals essentially is a rebrand for neo-fundamentalists. And anytime like a fundamentalist group takes control and takes power, like it's always going to go the way it's been going, you know? And so I think that's, but I didn't know that history, but I was like reading those books and learning that history. And then, you know, flash forward 18 months and I'm learning the history of Asian America and doing that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, it's interesting to think about just because I'm doing a lot of reflection on just like how different my life even could have been had Emily and I not sat down and watched Always Be My Maybe, which felt like a catalyst, even though I was in the process of changing in a way that I don't think I was really aware of at the moment because of like what was going on with Black Lives Matter specifically, the pandemic specifically, and then we were moving and talking about like, you know, starting a family. So I was already, I think,
you had the right ingredients.
Yeah. And like, that's what I say. Like, it was like, I talk a lot about recently, like I'm not like a big believer in fate, but like when I look at my own journey, like there are fortuitous moments that are like, had we watched another movie, like I don't even know the reason why we watched that movie. Like it's just what was selected, and then something in there just clicked in my brain. Here's the other thing though, but like the very next day, had I not clicked on Dear Asian Americans, like would I be at this point? Had I resonated even just slightly differently with that first episode, would I be, you know, at this point? And like, how different would that have looked?
Hello, multiverse.
Exactly.
No, the multiverse and just the theory of all that, the stuff that comes out in films does make you think about key moments and key decisions that could have altering effects down the line. And would something else eventually get you there? I mean, isn't that one of the things they talk about in the, you know, not spoiler alert, in one of the Lokis, and they're talking about, you know, key moments, things that have to happen. But
come on, bro. I mean, I've already
I'm
seen
not
it,
spoiling
but
it completely. I know.
It's fine.
But it's true. Yeah. I mean, if I hadn't, you know, done that, Dear Asian Americans, would I even been considering doing more podcasting? Because I was barely into listening podcasts.
That's true. I do remember you talking about that. If
Jerry were never born, would the three of us ever have gotten together, you know? Or are we quantumly entangled?
Would something else have spawned it? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that branch off from key decisions. It's very, I don't know. You kind of wish that you could see a multiverse and go back and see what would have happened if you hadn't done this.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I was talking about too is that like though, just thinking about that scenario, like other scenarios, gives me kind of a greater appreciation for what I have right now and the here and now and the present. And because, like, the reality is, I can't live in the hypothetical. This was a conversation I had with Rick Allen when I was in Korea. It's just like, I don't even want to allow myself to try and like think about that life, really. Not that I can't like think about it and like hypothesize on it, but to live in the hypothetical, I think, is to do a disservice to the life that I actually live. Because I think when I think about the multiverse, when I think about other timelines, I think it is really easy to get caught up in that thought process all the time and thinking, oh, how can my life be better or worse? And this is a conversation I was having earlier today too, is just like, another thing that I've learned, really, again, that has to do with identity, but is also a little bit different, is thinking about how not try to put like better or worse like labels on it, just like different. It's different. Like the life would have been different. Had I not been adopted, my life would have been different. I can't say it would have been better. I can't say it would have been worse. I can hypothesize that for sure. But at the end of the day, I just know it would have been different. And it's like, I think that kind of shift in my mindset of how I think about even my own story has given me, again, when it comes to community or thinking about other cultures and peoples, a greater appreciation for just the world that we live in. Because like, obviously there are experiences that could be classified as worse. Slavery for enslaved African families and peoples, way worse than just not having had to go through that experience, for sure. And it's also like, at the end of the day, your experience is different than mine. Just how within our own diaspora as Korean adoptees, all three of our experiences are just different. And it's like, we could ascribe a better or worse or whatever kind of label that you want. And 100% is probably valid in one form or fashion. And at the end of the day, thinking about it as just different gives me, I think, not only a greater appreciation of my own life, but also the folks that I come into contact with. Like greater appreciation for what y'all have like experienced and went through and had to overcome or triumph with or whatever it might be. And so it's just interesting. I totally agree. I think all of the fictional narratives out there right now that deal in multiverse or other worlds or like that type of thing, you can't help but kind of like think about it, like, and to transpose yourself onto there. But I think had I not went on this journey over the last 3 years, had these conversations with you both, and then with other people in the community, like, I think it would have been easier for me to get caught up in that, like, and to really like actually do the transposing and be like, oh, I wish. Or like we talked about a couple episodes ago, like the envy, like being envious of even the other lives I could have had. Like right at this moment in time, like I don't feel that towards the other alternate universe versions of myself out there. I'm just like
the other Patricks in the world.
Yeah, the other Patricks in the world. But I'm just like, I'm good with what I got here, and this is what I'm like, what I'm invested in. So I don't know. Yeah, this is what I've been thinking about too.
Exactly how I feel when I play the lottery. So.
Interesting.
I could have won, but
but I didn't. It reminds me of in high school, one of my teachers said grief is not quantifiable. Like you can't say someone's grief is worse than another's. And what you were talking about, like your appreciation for the here and now, it reminded me of like my favorite quote of all time from Lord of the Rings, right? All we have to do is decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. And it's in the middle of Frodo being like, God, this sucks. Like I have this huge task and I have to, like, I'm stuck in the mines of Moria and we don't know where to go. And I've left the safety of home and I have no idea what's coming ahead, and like, he just is like, I wish things didn't turn out the way that they did. And Gandalf was like, yeah, so do I, but that's not up to us to decide, like all we have is to play the hand that we're dealt. And I think that that's why the concept of grief being unquantifiable is so true, because like you could say like, oh yeah, maybe this person's life, the moments that they hit in their lives from an outside perspective may look quote unquote better than another's. But for that person, were they truly better? Were they the same height as one who is outside of that might experience or might see it as? Are the lows the same lows that another person might see it as? And I think that that's really, really interesting, and is so important in being able to give grace and give compassion. And it's been a real privilege, I think, for us to listen to so many stories, and without any type of, I mean, obviously we have the framework of other stories, but for the moment of a guest or even one of the three of us sharing about our lives, what we can do is just say, like, in this moment, I hear how you feel. I hear how that's affecting you. I hear all those things. And I see that, and I appreciate you sharing that. And it does us no good to compare that to an adoptee who has a quote unquote better adoption experience or a
Right.
quote unquote worse adoption experience. Because while the situations may or may not be better, like from an objective outside perspective, I guess the pure postmodernism sense is like, we can never know because it's always about what direction, what perspective we're seeing those
Right.
stories from, you know.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with what you said too, Patrick, about giving yourself kind of that grace and acceptance of the decisions that you make, because having regret or envy of different outcomes is not good and not healthy. And I think that is very important, because I try to I think back to things I've done and I go, oh, I regret doing this, but what would have happened if I had done that differently? Then things that I really like now might not have happened, and so you can never dwell on those things. You just have to accept the decisions that you make, and try to make the best ones as you go through it. And yeah, minimize the bad moments and try to make the right decisions as much as possible, I guess. So
Well, it's like your past decisions can
yeah.
inform what you do in the future. And like, again, like the whole dwelling thing is like, that's when you get caught up in, oh, I wish
Mhm.
I would have done this differently. And you can definitely do that for sure. I think regret is something that everybody experiences in one form or another. And I think that, to your point, Nathan, like, if like you can either wallow in regret and allow it to consume you and live in the hypothetical, or you can, I don't even want to say or, because it makes it feel very binary, but I guess that's the only
And
way I'm thinking about it at the moment. And you can allow it to inform how you move forward in when you approach another decision, like what you might
Mhm.
feel is pivotal, even though at the end of the day, it's the small decisions that seem inconsequential that most likely have the profound effect. Again, like
Yeah.
watching Always Be My Maybe seems like a really innocuous thing to do. That,
Yeah.
like, I look back and I'm like, hey, had I never watched this movie on Netflix, and in that, then it can go into like, if Randall Park and Ali Wong decided to never make this movie, like, my life would have been forever changed.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like, there. That's the appreciation, is just like, I'm learning and understanding now. And I think this is even built off of the conversations we've been having recently about my struggle with Korean culture and like really connecting, is like, that's part of that, kind of unknowable hypothetical thing. And like, I think I've been so caught up in it recently that I guess just in the last couple days, last week or so, I've really been like trying to find myself in this more present and be more present, because I got other shit going on too. And at the end of the day, like, I can get caught up in that, and I can also make the decision to be like, okay, how do I want to approach it moving forward? So
yeah. It reminds me of, we had a recent guest on who spent a lot of time in Korea, and I asked them, like, did you have a moment where you sat on a park bench or you were navigating the subway and like get a glimpse into the window of who you could have been had you not been adopted, or whatever else. And I think you and the guest, rightly so, were like, well, that's kind of like a false, like, whatever, well, like, but
mm,
it was like a thing that I asked that question because of how I used to think about, and maybe still do. And I guess that was like the point of the original question, was like, what are those things that you're still unearthing? But like, that was a framework that I hadn't revisited since starting this journey. And I was like,
sure.
oh yeah, maybe that is a flawed concept. And I just, like, I've done so much work to essentially know myself, right? That I uncovered in the moment of our interview. I was like, oh, I need to do more work around this, but we were talking about, thinking about you about to be a proper full-on dad, Nathan, you already being a dad, and me hopefully in the future, having that happen. Like, there are so many thoughts around raising kids, and yet to me it seems like the best thing that I could do for a child is to know myself and be able to explain that to a kid, because
Yes.
I want my kid, my future kid, to have the freedom to explore who they want to be. And while I might want to instill certain ideas, certain beliefs, certain ways of living, I don't know that I can really do that until I can know that and experience that and have experienced that and can express that for myself. Like, there's kind of that level of one of like, oh, I believe this. There's a level two of like, yeah, I believe it, and I've have talked about it, and I've done it. And then level three is like, I've believed it, I have done it, and I can explain to someone else, this is how, this is why, this is what, and I think that the more Sarah and I especially try to wrap around who we are becoming, hopefully that sets us up for having really enriching conversations with our kids, even at a young age, to think about how we want to kind of guide them into becoming the full version of themselves as well.
Yes. Here. The best way to
Spread Christmas cheer.
Instill Christmas cheer into your kids is to be Christmassy yourself. No, is really to know yourself and be comfortable in what you do yourself, because you never know what your kids are going to remember about you or take from you. And it's wiser to be the best you can be uh, at the time that they decide, oh, I like what dad's doing, or what he's doing. So I think about that constantly, because I think about moments that from my parents and things that they've done in the past, and I remember these key moments, and I'm like, why do I remember that little moment in time? Well, what instilled that into my memory? And I just only hope that when I do things and my kids take something away from me, that it's those good moments and not the bad ones where I'm screaming at them for spilling something, or or things like that. So it's tough, but like you said, you have to prepare and just be the best you can be for yourself, and hopefully it'll be also for them. So.
Well, again, the appreciation for what I'm going through right now, and being I feel really lucky to be doing this now pre-parenthood, because, okay, so to take the back to the appreciation, for folks in our community who parenthood is the spur to then be like, oh, I need to think about myself.
That's the moment of their apocalypse.
And then it's and then that's I have a lot of appreciation for those folks, because I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
And for me, it's I just talked about this on the other podcast about as a parent,
the podcast that shall not be named.
What do I want to outside of just even legacy? What do I want to give my kid? And it's just I want to be able to just model for them what it looks like to be accountable to myself, and to know myself and be able to explain it, and explain how I got here and why, so that the way they can be their own person, because they're going to be their own human being anyways. And I can't dictate what they do or who they become. All I can do is just be me, and show them that this is who I am. And hopefully that is a kind of person that can be a good guide for wherever that they end up on the path. And so shout out to all the adoptees who became parents and then started doing identity stuff, because that's a tough ass journey. And I feel like a conversation we've had on the show, and we could have much more conversations about. Mm-hmm. Because it's as I get closer and closer, it just becomes more and more wild to me, because I feel like I'm scrambling. Oh my God, these pieces are not fitting together. I need to put myself together. And so it's a lot. So I appreciate y'all out there for sure. This is a good ass conversation.
Well, I was just thinking, it would be as you're talking about, all I can do is know myself and give that to my kid. I feel like there is a secondary conversation about what it means to be part of the so-and-so family, the Relke, the Armstrong, the Nowak family. And I think that is a really big other conversation, right? That on some level, probably just generationally, we would have had some version of that conversation with our parents about like what it means to be part of this family, what it means, like whether that was an explicit conversation or something that you internalized. That was a conversation, that was some train of thought that was happening. And now on the other side of parenthood, how you pass that down, not just from a parent to child relationship, but generationally what that looks like, and then what it means to be adopted on top of that. But that's a conversation that we're going to have next time. So you're going to have to tune in for a later episode. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to jump into a pouch coffee Americano product of Korea.
Hooray!
Let's take that break.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show drink portion. When I say that, because we, as you already heard, are drinking something instead of eating something this time. So, and I know it's late. And
That was like the most normal intro into this section that you've ever done. I
didn't even garner a chuckle.
Didn't even garner a laugh. I almost hit the laugh track because I was just like, I don't know. I got to force it in. I got to pump it in. It was so normal.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Am I going off brand? Should I be more crazy?
That was off brand for you.
Should I be more crazy?
I should be some more crazy. Get this coffee going.
All right.
Yeah, nothing says crazy like a poor Australian accent.
So some coffee at 6 p.m.
So
I'm glad you kind of pronounced it for a second there, KJ. You said cantabile or something like that, or how did you say that?
Yeah, so the Korean says cantabile bilek americano.
Okay.
So cantabile is like Italian. I don't know why they're like, I don't know. I think about like a
coffee. It's much better than I was going to pronounce it. I was going to pronounce it cantabile, and I don't think that sounds very appetizing.
Sounds like cantabile from Star Wars.
Is especially as a direction in a smooth singing style.
Cantabile.
Okay. So let's hope this coffee is smooth then. I did go with the black Americano because I know you guys like your coffee's black. So I was like, let's just
Well, it was clearly supposed to be cold because the graphic on the front is ice cubes and a penguin on an iceberg. It was a lounge chair with a little straw
coming out the side of it.
Don't insult the penguin by having it warm.
It's a king emperor penguin because he's got a little crown on his head.
Mine is room temp.
It's close.
I don't know if that's what that means, but
so this is made by Dongseo Wellbeing Corporation. It's distributed by them. So, and I don't know anything else about it other than it has 10 calories. So I'm gonna open it
per serving.
And also, we have had something. I think we have had something from this company before, but it wasn't coffee. It was like a fruit tea.
It smells good though.
So
it smells like when people get coffee beans and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got it. Smell how it smells."
Well, it's in a pouch. Oh, it does.
Okay, I'm gonna go get a straw real quick.
Yeah, I got a straw.
I opened this in a really stupid way, so I need the straw.
Oh yeah, that's it's not great when it's not cold. It's good though.
I like it. I think it's a smooth coffee. It's not super bitter. It's definitely got chocolate tones.
It does smell good.
Yes, it does. It does have chocolate tones.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a straw too? Wait, is there a straw in here?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
I just was a smart boy and got a straw.
I just got a glass, but I like it. I think it's pretty smooth.
I mean, I would like it more if it was piping hot, to be honest. My instant first thought was, I wish this was hot.
Well, you're more than welcome to warm it up, but
nah.
But the penguin might come for you at night.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's definitely a more balanced flavor than like a cold brew concentrate.
Mhm.
Oh,
but
yeah, for
it
sure.
feels similar to that, like more similar to that, I think, where it would really shine with some zhuzh.
How
Even though I
insane is
prefer
it?
black things. Huh?
How insane is it that I have no idea what like a cold brew, cold coffee, anything even tastes like? I have no frame of reference
Wow.
for it because I've
Well, imagine it tastes
literally
like
almost
this.
never had it.
Only drink hot coffees.
Only
Yeah,
hot coffee.
I would say this is similar, but some like cold brews are more bitter. I feel like they're, I don't know.
Well, that's
Like
what I mean.
they're
So, like,
stronger feeling.
you can get cold brew concentrates, which usually come in a glass jar that's like maybe the size of a kombucha bottle. I know Trader Joe sells them, but they're specifically meant to be watered down. But even
And I
watered
don't
down, they
like
still
that.
kind of hit
Yeah,
like strong and like weird kind of. And then there's like
Definitely.
regular cold brew, which I think this tastes similar to, which is like what you see in like one of those like gallon-ish size like Stoke bottles.
that's what I get.
That I think that
Stoke.
this tastes pretty similar. But I think that there's something about cold brew black because of the way that it is. It really wants, for me, I feel like I really want like a creamer or something else. Like, and I think that that's why cold coffees are so popular as mixed drinks, because they like they have a really smooth body, but they like also kind of bring out this different type of bitterness at the end. Whereas like the heat of a hot black coffee maybe smooths that over some, you know.
And that's
Interesting.
coffee talk. Coffee talk with Janchi Show.
What was that?
I
Brooklyn?
don't know.
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like a Cockney Brooklyn.
It's an old Saturday Night Live skit with Mike Myers called Coffee Talk. So long. Yeah, I know you
Try to do
guys
it
don't
again.
get the reference.
Coffee talk.
I know you guys
I don't get the reference because I
you
don't watch
didn't see it.
SNL, but I understand
was-
both SNL and Mike Myers.
We
so,
just
like,
watched
was-
a bunch of the Timothy Chalamet SNL
Okay.
skits
It was
yesterday.
SNL a long
Very
time
funny.
ago. I know somebody's gonna message me later and go, "Yeah, I used to
Somebody.
love Coffee Talk."
Somebody leave us a
Somebody.
voicemail.
Please.
about
Someone's
Coffee
jumping
Talk.
into our DMs.
Jump into the
Yes.
DMs.
It was
All
always
right,
good stuff.
Let's rate this coffee.
It's
Talk.
cantabile.
I like it. I'll start 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. Actually, I think it
Wow.
was a lot smoother than I expected it to be. I usually assume that I don't know, just something out of a pouch like this isn't going to taste very good unless it's got fruit juice and Capri Sun in it. I don't know, like I I don't know. I just pouch coffee, just like box wine. I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me. But this was
with pouched coffee?
okay, now we're all doing accents.
That was a Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes,
What's the deal?
but I like it.
coffee?
I thought it was actually really smooth. I would definitely drink this. I know I agree though. I think a little zhuzh of cream or something in it would smooth it out even more. But I could easily see myself drinking this whole thing black. So for that, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. So
All right. Wait, you said 4 or 4.5?
4.5.
Oh, dang.
So, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think I would give it a 4 out of 5. I don't like that it comes in a pouch and is not inclusive of a straw. Like maybe that's because I'm a child of the
Deductions.
90s and was raised on like Capri Sun Lunchables, but like Capri Sun and Lunchables as my lunch.
Yep.
But like, I don't know. Actually, now that I think about that, I would really love to be able to like poke the straw through, drink the thing, fold it up, pretend like it's a cell phone. Like that whole like, did you ever do that?
Not pretend it was a cell phone.
No.
Cell
All right,
phone?
yeah.
What?
Okay, I mean, okay, this is
Cell
elementary
phones weren't existing when
Elementary
I drank
school
Capri
KJ.
Sun.
elementary school KJ. You fold it up, right, and then you keep the straw in there, fold it in half long ways, and then fold up like the bottom third, and it's like the old like it's like you the
Old
straw is
flip
your
with
antenna.
the antenna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
And
know
then
you're
you put
talking
it up,
about
and
now.
then yeah. So
That's funny.
that's what I remember about drinking Capri Sun as a kid. So yeah, so I was like, I miss that there's not a straw with the thing. It's not. I don't like that there's a bring your own straw situation. I also, like how all of the Korean instant coffees that we have a lot of like cream and sugar built in. I'd actually probably take about half of those packets and just dump it in, and like that would probably mix well and just be the right thing for me. Because I feel like all the instant coffees, there's like little tiny brown specks of coffee and the rest of it is like cream and sugar. So if you just like take like half of that and dump it in here, it'd be like the perfect amount of like zhuzh. It'd be the right flavor. It'd still be great. So overall, it's pretty good, but I'm gonna say 4 out of 5.
All right.
Well, the turtles thank you for not having straws.
The
in this,
turtles?
so
Are turtles made or straws made out of turtles?
No, because
Oh,
plastic
they
straws,
go out
trash,
into the
plastic.
ocean and the turtles choke on the straw. Okay, I get you. I
Sure.
get you.
I'm sure other things choke on it.
Trigger warning for turtle endangerment. I'm giving it a 3. Not a cold coffee drinker. This was better than I expected it to be. Again,
It's better than the
like,
pouches that we have, right? The dry ones.
Instantly thought, I wish this was hot. Well, as soon as it touched my lips. I also
Didn't it bypass your lips because you were drinking through a straw though?
Nope. I just put the straw.
I made a right mess of my whole mouth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to wash my microphone.
It's just the tip of the straw. I guess when I think of cold coffee, sometimes I think about like when you've had a mug of coffee and it's sat, and then that coffee gets cold. That coffee is gross. This is better than that. So that's why I'm giving it a 3. I do wish that it came with a straw instead of having to have a straw, because if I didn't have a straw, I wouldn't have thought to pour it in a cup like Nathan did, and I would have been furious at how I was
we can't all be geniuses like Nathan over here. Gosh.
I don't use my brain that much
Showing
when it
his
comes to
wits
coffee.
off.
So 3 out of 5, maybe 3 and I'll give it a 3.5. You know what? I'll play nice and give it a 3.5. This is much better than I expected. So shout out Cantabile.
Well,
Cantabile.
they also had other flavors like hazelnut. They had a sweet Americano, and then they have tea flavors too. So
Do they have
like
Speedway gas
peach tea,
station?
blueberry teas?
They have
No.
that flavor.
But it is single serving. So these little pouches are small. You can buy them in larger boxes too. So if you guys ever see them in a store, look for the pouches. They're like kind of like KJ said, they're like giant Capri Suns, but
Look for the pouch.
yeah. So when I think of Capri Sun, I think of orange slices and soccer practice.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't think I would be having a coffee at these soccer practices at that age instead, but that would have been interesting.
Capri Sun. I could go for a Capri Sun right now.
Mm.
If you want, we would love to hear from you, the listener, what you think
your
about
Capri Sun experience
your Capri Sun
was.
of choice and your experience with Capri Sun. Did you fold it up after like a cell phone after you were done with it? We need to know. We need to run a poll on that. We could probably do that in the after party on Facebook. If you are still on Facebook and you follow us there, join Nathan in the Janchi Show after party. You can also leave us a voicemail at 972-677-8867 with your specific Capri Sun experiences. You can also send us an email if you'd rather do the written word to janchishow@gmail.com. Is that still? Okay. janchishow@gmail.com. You can send us a DM about your Capri Sun choices at Janchi Show on all the social media platforms. When you're done doing all of that, we'd love for you to visit our website, janchishow.com. There are a number of different ways that you can support us there, including merch items. We're looking for ways to get some new stuff up on the site right now. Other than that, we'd really love if you could leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts. Really appreciate that. And last but not least, if you want to follow us individually, you can do so at Patrick in the World, at KJ Relke, or at N Nowak for Nathan. Maybe just Nathan Nowak on Facebook. As we said, he is manning the after party.
Just maybe.
Maybe.
You can tell me you've heard the Saturday Night Live Coffee Talk skit.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Nice.
We got to talk about Saturday Night Live, too.
Yeah, go right on his wall.
Right on. Oh, that's what it is. Is
I'll
it still
give you a
called the wall?
topic.
I mean, I don't
Yikes.
think so, but
I'll give you a topic. Roosevelt's
Why are you
New
talking
Deal
like that?
was neither new nor deal. Sorry.
All right.
It was a good skit.
Good skit. Good conversation. All right, coffee. Appreciate you all. Appreciate you all out there listening. Anything else?
Thank you.
No?
Janchi.
no,
Heyo.
but I will say actually that our pending store item is aprons. So get
Okay.
hyped.
Get
That
hyped
was
hyped.
for our
It might already
aprons.
be
We
out
have
by the
some
time
left.
this episode drops.
It's true. We have some left from Con. I know people messaged us about those. So
We're gonna get them up
aprons.
All right. Well, get your aprons and then take a picture and send it to us at any of those options that we've listed before. And then
I would love that. Yes, please do that.
Until we receive those and until next week.
Janchi, heyo!
Janchi, heyo! Janchi, heyo! That was
Again,
really hot.
Just destroying the microphone.
Hot.
Yeah.
I'm not that far. I have my gain all the way down.
You are not that far. That is very true. You are very
What?
close.
I am? No, I'm not. I'm 6
You've
inches.
got the pop filter on. I don't know.
I
It's
do.
just like it does come in very
It's
hot.
because it's a condenser microphone, so it's like
Ah,
very, very sensitive.